Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to look at another method that you can use to rig up your characters. First things first, though, I want to do some quick housekeeping regarding the UV video. There's one thing I forgot to mention in that video that I want to mention right now. It's not extremely important, but it is something I want to bring up. When you're in the UV editor, you have these two icons here. This first one just changes your, just shades your UVs to make them easier to find if you're having a hard time finding the UVs. And this one right next to it is a little bit more important. It shows you UV distortions. Essentially, if you have any areas that are stretched in your UVs, they will be colored red, and any areas that are compressed will be colored blue. Ideally, your UVs will have no red and no blue, but most UV maps will have some red and some blue. This one I actually got lucky and there's actually no red and no blue at all, but the majority of UV maps will have some areas that are red and some areas that are blue. So this is just to help you keep an eye out for that kind of stuff in case you have some areas of your UV characters or assets that are behaving strangely. This just helps you identify if there's any areas that are stretched or compressed. Bring this back to normal. Get this back to normal. All right. Let's go ahead and start rigging up this character. We have to set up the character first, of course. We do that the same way we did before, which is via the content browser. Bring in basic human body. Scale up the character to be the size of the human body. Again, Maya works with very, very small working units as its default. Actually, if we get rid of the human body now, if we go ahead and take a look at the windows and right here within the settings, we can see that our default working units are centimeters. So we can change this if we want to. I usually don't. I usually just work in the default working units and then just scale it up when I'm done, but you can change it if you want to. I believe I brought that up before, but it's worth mentioning again since we're going to be doing this often every time we try to rig up a character. Anyway, let's go ahead and delete by type our history, modify, raise our transformations. Let's go ahead and look at another method of rigging up our character. So we're going to do what we did before, just enter the rigging menu set. We're going to go to skeleton. But instead of quick rig, we're going to select HumanIK, the last option here. And with our mesh selected, I'm just going to click on the create skeleton button. And there we go. We can't see the skeleton that well yet. Let's go ahead and go into shading and turn on X-ray joints. And just for good measure, I'm also going to turn on X-ray for the character, just to make this even easier to see. Okay. If your character is the approximate size of that human body that I brought in from the content browser, then you don't need to do anything with the skeleton at this point, because it should be the right size. If, however, you found that your that your mesh is too small or too big, you will have to play with the character scale for this skeleton. Be aware this is not a normal scale. This is a multiplier. So right now it's at its default 1 size. If you wanted to double the size, you would type in 2, and it doubles the size of the skeleton. To bring it back down to its default size, you'll notice that the scale went right back to 1. So to bring it back down to its default size, you would have to divide this in half or times 0.5. Same thing if the character was too small. You would have to bring this down, let's say we wanted to bring it down to half, so 0.5. Now it's half the size it used to be. And to bring it back up to its default size, I have to double the scale here. So I have to go from 1 to 2. This is a multiplier. It's not a regular, it's not regular degrees like the values you work with in the channel box. Just be aware of that. If you have the character at the default size, however, then this one should be just fine. We have other values here we can play with: the spine, the neck, shoulder and clavicle, roll bones, finger bones, toe bones. This is stuff you can all play around with if you want to. For our purposes, though, we're going to move ahead into the next step, which is just keeping this simple and just going ahead and setting up our joints. You will notice this icon here, mirroring from left to right. You will also notice there's no option of mirroring right to left, so we are going to work with the character's left side here, which is this side. And we're going to work with all these joints and then mirror over to this side. So let's go ahead and start doing that. I'm also going to do some setup work so I can see everything properly here. Okay, before I move on to the hand, I do want to take a quick moment to point out the definition tab here and the warnings that can appear. Specifically that certain certain joints may not be facing the positive direction. This is okay if you see this. I wouldn't worry about this too hard. But you can just do a little bit of tweaking. Try and fix it if you want to. Like what I just did there. It's not the end of the world if you do have that yellow pop up, however. So don't worry too much if you see the yellow. I just wanted to point out that that is there, and that is something that you can look at if you want to see how your rig is going. All right, let's focus in on the hand now. This is one of the advantages of HumanIK versus QuickRig. The fact that you can add joints for your hand. All right, let's go ahead and select my skeleton. We're going to go back over to the skeleton tab. I'm going to mirror from left to right. Okay, with everything mirrored, we can go ahead and wrap this up. And the way you do that is by first making sure we're in the definition tab. You're going to see this icon right here, the next to last one. This one, if we hover over it, it creates a control rig. So let's go ahead and click that. Give it a second. You will notice now that our joints have now become a full-on rig with controls and stuff, just like with the quick rig. Except now we also have these extra joints for the hands. If you select the controls, you can start moving around the skeleton. But of course, if you do this, you will notice it's not yet bound to our mesh. So we have to do that. To do that, we have to go into our outliner. We're going to select the hips joint here. Then we're going to select the actual mesh of the character itself. And then we're going to jump into skin. The first option here is bind skin. We want to go into the settings. I'm going to reset so we can see everything exactly as it is. You don't want to change any of this except for max influences. You want to change this from 5 to 4. If you intend to bring this into a game engine like Unity or something, then Unity by default uses 4 influences. What this means is that each and every single one of the vertices on this character can only ever be influenced / moved around / deformed by a total of 4 different joints, which helps when you're painting skin weights, because you know that if there's any weird deformations going on, there's only 4 possible joints that could be moving that particular vertice around if you don't want it to. Anyway, let's go ahead and apply and close. And now, let's see what we got. Let's test it out. Here we go. We get deformations again, just like with the quick rig. Except, of course, now we have the added advantage that we can move individual fingers at this point. Works just like the quick rig, but now you have some additional joints that you can play with. And just like with the quick rig, the next step here is to test out all of your joints to see what deforms well and what doesn't deform well, what moves properly and what isn't moving properly. Just like with the quick rig, I can guarantee you there's going to be some areas that are going to be moving that you don't want to be moving, which means that your next step is going to be to paint skin weights. We're not going to do that in this video. This is just to show you the other method of going through the rigging process. The video on the quick rig process also shows you how to paint skin weights. The next video is also going to show a little bit on painting skin weights, but mostly I'm going to show one new thing in regards to skin weights, as opposed to going through the process of painting skin weights for everything like I did before. The last thing that I want to show is actually up here. These two icons under the Controls tab. We have this, which let's hover over. We'll show and hide IKs. If we get rid of that, that eliminates all of the curves that were created, all of the controls for our character. And this, hiding the FKs, will just hide the entire skeleton. Obviously, at this point, you want to show that stuff, but if you wanted more control over what you see, these two icons up here help you do that. A quick note about this HumanIK rigging solution, just like with the Maya quick rig solution, if you make any changes to your model and you want to set it back to pose mode, you can very easily do that by just entering the HumanIK menu and just clicking, going under the controls here and finding the stance pose. Clicking that, and you go back to the regular default pose. In the next video, I'm going to show yet another method to rig, and I'm also going to show one extra thing about painting skin weights that I didn't before. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you all next time.